On this episode, we talk about the issues surrounding the seed trait technology decision for 2021. We also have Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig and Representative Joe Mitchell joining us.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Cup of Joe, episode number 48, season 2. Today we have two segments. We have a special segment with Iowa Secretary of Ag Mike Naig and also Representative Joe Mitchell, and that will be at the end. And we'll start first with our regular segment, with our regular panel. So let's jump right into it. This week, Turk, there's some news that came out about soybean herbicides and this whole thing. Go ahead.
News this week came out of St. Louis. Monsanto had a big press release talking about a $10 billion settlement to try and put an end to the Roundup lawsuits that were coming against them. And that settled 75% of them. So supposedly, so that in an agreement. So there's still more to come there. And then the other part of that was $400 million to settle some of the dicamba drift complaints that they've had so far. That's just the tip of the iceberg on that one.
So Turk, when they're putting $400 million towards those dicamba claims, so essentially by doing that, they're admitting that there was volatilization that took place and that it drifted.
And then what's that do? That opens that door for a lot more to come.
Yeah, $400 million is not going to cover it very much.
Not even close.
Like Joe said, a cup out of the Mississippi.
Well, and then keep in mind, these are funds that are established, that, and then the settlements will be divvied out after that, rather than try each case individually.
Right.
So there'll be a negotiation process. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's kind of a settlement to a bunch of class action lawsuits. So
what's been filed in court right now.
I saw an article, it goes from 2017 to 2020 as far as claims go. So, and that's anything that falls in within this year as well. So,
well, it does take a little wind out of their sail that when they for years have said that dicamba does not move off target. So, with the court ruling, basically vacating the registration, puts a lot of questions about what's going to happen next year with that technology. Now, again, this week there was another little article out from Purdue. And anybody want to take that on as far as what they were saying that, so maybe one of the things that Monsanto Bayer is going to go to revive this technology next year?
Well, that article alluded to the fact that they were testing at Purdue some new possible formulations for dicamba chemistry, and it is said in that article, it remains to be seen how effective they will be, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding to try and get a new formulation. I mean, if they change it very much, it's going to have to require a new registration completely. I mean, I don't know of any new modes of action coming, but it's assault. I mean, it's
right. It's changing how the chemistry works and we're not going to dive into it too deep, but just changing how the chemistry of dicamba works. It's still a dicamba product that is tolerant, or the soybeans will still be tolerant to dicamba. So changing the formulation of how dicamba works is going to be really difficult, but while still trying to keep it as effective as it is on killing weeds, because there's a certain amount of a good analogy would be like there's a certain amount of volatility that happens that works with that dicamba salt to go in and actually kill the weeds, rather than the actual liquid formulation percolating in through the stomates to try to kill that plant. So it'd be like having crude oil versus like gasoline. The crude oil would be like the liquid form of dicamba that they're trying to percolate into the stomates, which are the holes, the openings in the leaves, versus gasoline, which is much more volatile, like the vapor off of gasoline to actually enter those. And, I mean, there's two different components that work with that dicamba. It'd be really, really hard to get a product to work effectively while changing how dicamba works.
basically if you put something in it to reduce the volatilization, you'll lose effectiveness.
Correct.
And so there, I guess, in this new formulation, the way it sounds like there would be more of the physical product being put on the plant to compensate. Is that what we're saying?
We don't know.
There's not enough.
It's
we're all speculating.
Sure.
We're all speculating. Anything we say, we're just speculating, but we're just scratching our head saying, how are they going to do this? How are they going to come out next year with a new formulation of dicamba that's not going to be volatile based on what we know how dicamba works? So to me, I think this is my experience with the years that we've worked with Monsanto as a seed partner is that, when in doubt, go to your pipeline and tell us what you're going to bring and take the focus away from today and think about next year and the following year. So isn't that no different than the hot dog out in front of the dog to get to pull the cart, type thing? If I was a farmer, obviously we hope they're successful in figuring out how to manage dicamba. It's a great herbicide for killing weeds. However, the way it is in the present form is not the best way to kill weeds if you're going to live with your neighbors, okay? And so we have Enlist E3 right now, and we have LibertyLink GT27s fully approved. All the herbicides are ready to go. Vapor friendly and the whole thing. So, why would you want to basically light a stick of dynamite and hope that you can control it? It doesn't make sense to me. And it does put farmers in a heck of a situation. In other words, as they're deciding what they're going to do next year, are they going to bet on this new formulation going to make it in time and they're going to get a registration, and is Flex going to get approved? The Liberty 2,4-D, Liberty dicamba Roundup version, is it going to get approved? There's just a lot of uncertainty on that. So, I don't know about you, but I think taking a bird in the hand is the best way to go.
Well, and exactly, you said it right, Joe. Do you want to be caught out of position? Because at the end of the day, if the Ninth Circuit Court didn't come out and approve them to use existing supply in the field, you wouldn't have post-application of dicamba anywhere
right now.
And at the end of the day, you need to kill weeds. You don't want to be caught out of position again and with your hands up in the air, not knowing where to go.
I totally agree. So I guess what we're trying to do to our listeners is basically be careful, listen, get the information, and just don't take it from one side. Make sure you get both sides before you make that seed decision. And I think this is the year you're not going to want to wait around. You're going to want to place your orders for seed prior to harvest, just to make sure you get the varieties you want and what you need, particularly if you're looking at the Enlist E3 or LibertyLink GT27 platform. Or you can wait around and hope that Flex gets approved in the European Union, and plus you can wait around and see if they get a new formulation that actually works. Again, nobody's seen it. Other than Purdue is working with it, so we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But there's a lot of unknowns, and I don't know about you, but you cannot run a business on unknowns. You got to run it on things that you know and that are proven, because there's no margin for error in this business.
Mm-hmm. Time is money too, and even that article Purdue released, they were even speculating and saying that we don't know how this is going to control weeds in the real world situation. So
a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush.
That's what we have always said. So, well, I'm glad that some information has come out, and so we can start following it, and we'll watch it, and we'll report on it. We'll give you our opinions, and again, we encourage you to get the other side of the equation, so you make sure you make a good solid decision on how to control weeds in your fields, because weeds cost you money, and any loss of yield in today's environment and pricing is super big deal. So, anything else that you guys want to contribute about this news about the settlements and the potential new dicamba formulation for next year?
If we have a couple minutes left, Ben, could you cover some of the Group 15? We're seeing some of the wilting of leaves out in the field a little bit.
Yeah, and I guess Turk could probably be a testament to this one too. Products so not every time when you roll up onto a field and you see cupping or certain things,
Sure.
It's not always dicamba damage.
Absolutely.
So you want to really get out and diagnose and figure out what was sprayed post on those beans. Products like Warrant and Outlook and Dual, products that you use as residuals to control weeds on your post, sometimes have the ability in certain heat to cause some bumpiness to the leaves.
A drawstring effect is what I call it, but that because we're doing the right thing and we're putting on more residual herbicides with our post applications, which is good. We want to do that to get multiple modes of action out there and extend our weed control life. We are seeing some more of those types of things out there. So when you start seeing funny looking fields, you got to look close to evaluate what it is.
Yeah, don't always jump to it.
And again, they usually have a funny tip on them as well. They'll be rounded.
Right. So a lot of those applications happen during vegetative stages, so it's mainly cosmetic. If we're dinging those up when we're in reproduction, I don't like that as much.
No.
But this is just cosmetic, and a lot of the new growth is going to come out.
Like
it's going to look healthy.
burn or something like that.
Yeah, it's more cosmetic than it is detrimental to yield.
But
So
AMS is not causing any of these problems.
AMS, if you have AMS and you don't let your tank circulate long enough and you don't get that dry product completely dissolved, and even if you do get it completely dissolved, sometimes you can see a little bit of speckling on the leaves. That's just the nitrogen
But
portion.
it won't do that drawstring effect, make
Right.
that wrinkling. It won't be the same look.
So what about mixing glyphosate and in list one, and that whole concept? There's a proper procedure within list dual in mixing the product. Is there anything you want to make a comment on that, so it doesn't turn to jelly, I guess you might say?
Yep. So basically, you're going to condition your water is always the first step. You get your AMS or your water conditioner in, and then you're going to move to putting your. Really, the only problem happens or that comes up is when you're using the Enlist one, and it's not really a problem. It's just a procedure on how things get mixed, and we've talked about it a couple times. But you want to get your Roundup in, or you're going to want to get your Enlist one in, let the tank recirculate for a couple minutes, and then you want to add your Roundup, and then your Liberty after that. And you want to have plenty of time for recirculation in between your
So
additions.
it's basically all dissolved in the mass.
Correct.
Not in any concentrations.
Correct. You don't want to dump the AMS in, dump the Enlist one in, you don't want to dump it in all at the same time.
The concentrations will interact with one another. You want to put in one product and let it completely, and then put in the next.
Okay, good tip, because we had a couple farmers last week say they had some compatibility issues, and it's just basically the speed process that they did.
Yep, it's the amount of time of recirculation is really fixing those problems. So it's not a NASCAR stop. I know it feels like it, but it's not a NASCAR stop. It's not a pit stop when you're going into refill. You got to do it right, so you're not.
Usually get in trouble with when you have multiple injectors into one line, and they inject one and then just turn the other one on, and the first one hasn't had time to mix.
Okay. Earlier this week, we caught up with Iowa Secretary of Ag Mike Naig and Representative Joe Mitchell. Here's the interview we had with them. Today we have we have two special guests today. We have Joe Mitchell, representative for Southeast Iowa at the Iowa Legislative, and we also have the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Naig. And today, Mike, what brings you to Southeast Iowa?
Well, I'm down here to be on Cup of Joe, actually. I mean, this is the best part of my day so far. But, I'm out and about finally again, and I tell you, it's great to. It's been since March that I was able to get out and do some visits across the state of Iowa, and I get around to all 99 counties. And so today we're starting that up again, and I'm just thrilled to be out. So spent just up the road, was out with a farmer this morning looking at some cover crops and some of the work they're doing, and now I'm down here visiting with Mershman Seeds. I'm just really thrilled to be here and be able to see the operation and talk with you, Joe, and Dad Bill as well, and this has just been a great opportunity to come out and see what your operation's like.
Well, we're glad you got out of Des Moines and to see what's going on out there with the folks that support you, and agriculture is so important to our state, and I know you know that, and
Yeah.
You're leading the charge to make sure it stays number one, right?
We've got so much uncertainty right now. It just in every phase of our lives, but agriculture is not immune from that, and we've seen such a disruption in the marketplace, and particularly with our livestock producers, and yet we all know that a crop had to go in the ground this spring, and that was going to take a lot of planning and on the part of the input suppliers and our farmers, and that's really been a bright spot in so many places, is that we did get this crop in the ground in pretty good shape. And now, of course, we need the weather to cooperate down the stretch, but I do get asked a lot about what do I think about what happens next, and why can I be optimistic. we're pretty fortunate that we are right where we are. We are in the middle west of this country, and it's an important place to be. And I wouldn't want to be on the recovery side of COVID-19 in any other place than right where we are, because we've still got a job to do to feed people and fuel people, and the demand around the world will only grow. And so I'm glad we're right where we are, and I'm really anxious though to start talking more about recovery and growth and all those things and what comes next.
Well, Joe, you have the title of being the youngest representative in the House of Representatives in the state of Iowa, right?
Yes, sir.
How did you get into this political business?
Sure. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a long story, but to sum it up, I started working at the Capitol when I was in high school as a page in the House of Representatives. And so when I was a page up there, I decided to go to Drake University in Des Moines so I could still be involved at the Capitol. When I was going to Drake, I interned in the governor's office, interned in the Iowa Senate. I interned in Joni Ernst's office in D.C., and I came back and I was working in the lobby. And my predecessor, Dave Heaton, who was our state representative for 24 years, decided to retire. And so when he decided to retire, I thought I might not get a chance for another 24 years to run for the state representative office. So that's when I decided to throw my hat in the ring. And I had a 4-way primary, and it was a challenging primary, and I knocked on, I think, 2,000 doors. So I went around to Mount Pleasant, West Point here, Wayland, Winfield, all around the district, and knocked on folks' doors and asked for their vote, and ended up winning by 100 votes. And so, but I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. It's been great. I've got to meet so many great people around our area. And, whenever I'm talking to folks up in Des Moines and I talk about West Point, they always know what Mershman seeds are, because you guys do a great, you guys have a great business here, and you guys have a great operation. And today was the first time not the first time I've been here, because I came here for the Sweet Corn Festival, obviously before, and, we're shucking corn and stuff. But this is the first time actually going through and seeing, the day-to-day, what you guys do. And it's been great to meet you guys all here and do it with our secretaries. So thanks for having us out today.
We're glad you came. Mike, what's the number one thing that keeping you up at night as the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture?
If there's only one, I think it all boils down to the just uncertainty. Right, and we deal with, in agriculture, farmers know how to deal with certain risks, right? So many ways, this COVID-19, this public health crisis is unprecedented, right? And it's a global issue. It's not just something that's impacting one part of the world or one part of our country, and I think that's hard for us to just manage through that, because it is unprecedented. And so I do worry about what's happening with the financial health of our farms and ag businesses, and I worry about the mental health of what's happening with folks that are on the farm and struggling. And we're bootstrap people in agriculture, right? We pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but if the bootstraps are gone, what do you do? And we're gonna need to support each other and be worried about that and focused on that. That's community and the mental health side of what's happening out there with stress too. So to me, it's all about that uncertainty, and how do we restore financial health? How do we bring certainty back to the marketplace? How do we restore exports to the level that they need to be? Those are the types of things that I'm thinking a lot about, and that's not just a farm thing. It's our farmers, but it's everybody throughout the whole food and agriculture supply chain. And I think we also got a chance to remember how incredibly important that is, and that any disruption to that supply chain at any point, whether it's at the packing plant or on the farm or in the grocery store, that it impacts us as consumers, impacts every person. So those are the things I'm thinking a lot about. And these will be times where we'll look back, and shame on us if we don't look back and learn something from what we've gone through the last couple of months.
Dirk, do you have any questions for him?
I just had a question for Mike. What is it that you would say to young people that are thinking about getting involved in agriculture? Yeah. What is it? Is it something that has a bright future in Iowa?
It does, and I'm sure you two could echo this and agree with this. It's never been easy to get into farming. It's never been easy to get into business, right? And that's still true today.
Yeah.
We won't ever say that this is an easy path. But what I like to continue to say to folks is, especially sitting in my chair as the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, again, there's a reason that we are who we are in Iowa. There's a reason that we're number 2 in the nation in terms of what we produce, second only to California. It's because we've got all the different pieces that you need, the land and the resources and the water and the people and the whole system that works together, the input suppliers and the markets. So again, I wouldn't want to be in any other chair doing this. But I have to look at that broader, bigger picture, which is that we produce things here in our state and in this country that a lot of folks around the world need. Mm-hmm. And there may be some disruption in that, to get between here and there. But those demographics, those dynamics, those fundamentals are still true. And I still think that puts us in a great position. And of course, we all know that this isn't just about a job. That what we do in agriculture it's a way of life. It's who we are, and I couldn't think of a better, more noble calling than to feed and fuel folks. And so I still think that that's a great thing to get involved in. And of course, I'm excited about visited with a young man who's using precision agriculture and precision conservation. And when I think about the cool things that are coming in terms of innovation and the use of data and boy, those are exciting things. And as a young person, why wouldn't you want to get involved in this?
That's kind of our philosophy here too, is if we got somebody interested in agriculture, we try to expose them to them. In fact, we do a lot of first, second, and third grade tours, and I always ask the question, okay, and their mothers are around because they always like to come along on the field tours. They go, how many of you want to be a seed salesman? And the mothers go, oh.
I bet occasionally you get one and you think, sign that young man or young lady up, right?
That's the way it goes usually. But anyhow, it's more than just selling seed. There's all those things you just talked about. Yeah. Well, it was great to have you both here today. It's a real privilege, and we're glad to share what we do here. And we have a lot of great customers and a lot of great seed growers that make it our business possible. And so thanks for stopping by, and we wish you the best in the coming year.
Well, thank you guys.
I'd like to conclude this Cup of Joe segment with our normal corny joke. So this week I brought 2 in just to make sure that you got plenty of this stuff, okay? Well, the first one is, why don't melons get married? Because they can't elope. They can't elope. Get it? Okay. Now, the last thing I want to do is I got a little confession here, okay? I want to tell you something about me personally, okay? I used to be addicted to soap, but I'm clean now. See you next week.
It's good to know.
Take care, be safe, and stay healthy. Thanks for planting Mershman Seeds.